Kenny,
Rebecca.
patriot, nationalist, maybe, not in the bad terms, but in a good way. Care for your country, your homeland. We're at a conference. We're talking about remigration,
Yep.
decolonization of Europe, taking our countries back, and how we can take care of our peoples. Do you find it interesting that quote-unquote nationalists have to meet and strategize together across Europe like a union to make that happen?
It's interesting, yes, but not unusual. I've been a nationalist all my adult life. I became a nationalist in my teens, and I've always seen that we share the same passion for our homelands, and that there should be cooperation and mutual respect. So I don't think there's anything unusual about that. Nations have been trading and cooperating with each other since nations started forming. That's quite normal. I think the idea that it's unusual or it has come from the left, from the liberal progressives, the establishment, who tells us, oh no, if you simply love your nation and have pride in your people, you're narrow-minded, you're closed in. That's not actually what nationalists are. We're very open. I think, as I said at the Q&A today, we are the genuine defenders of multiculturalism. We are the people who value the differences of culture and ethnicity around the globe. It's only us. These other people, when they talk about multiculturalism, it's more of a melting pot. They bring all these things together and they destroy the things that are precious to peoples. We're the opposite. We want different, and I think you opened up by with these different kind of labels and different brands. It was interesting me coming to the continent and people were saying patriots were the word they use, and nationalist had other connotations. And for us, even back home, a nationalist in Scotland is a supporter of the SNP, who are an internationalist group. In Ireland, it's different again. But I believe in genuine nationalism. I believe in ethnicity and people having a homeland. That's how I see nationalism. It's not a worldview that you can't be a nationalist and be an ideologue, for example. Nationalism is something that lives and breathes like the people, and it involves doing what's best for the people all the time. So that's literally what we've done today at this conference. Lots of people who feel passionately about their homeland have got together to do what needs to be done, and hopefully terrify the opposition, because we're doing things that they don't like and they don't expect. We're cooperating and strategizing ways to be successful and defeat them.
Well, if there's going to be a global supranational organization working against nationalism, you kind of have to have a global supernatural organization to work towards nationalism. Yes. And it makes sense if you look at it that way. But going back to the language, patriot or nationalist, because it is an interesting concept. We know language matters.
Yep.
Do you think patriots is more of a sort of inclusive language towards people who might want to stay in their new homeland? Is that the connotation from nationalist, or how does that work?
Yeah, in the UK, I think among nationalists who are activists, they see the word patriot as something softer, as somebody almost like a civic nationalist. Now that's a nonsense idea. There's no such thing. You can't be a civic nationalist. But patriot is a coverall, and I'll admit I do use it quite often, especially when for people who are not yet fully committed to nationalism, they still have patriotic tendencies, and that's something we want to encourage. I've brought up my three girls using the phrase, but don't litter. If you love your country, you won't litter. That's a patriotic sentiment. People who are not yet fully on board with the defence of ethnicity can still call themselves patriots. So I language does matter, but we should use it to our advantage when we need to do so, and not be afraid to use words that the enemy use.
Or to speak clearly.
Yes, yeah.
Because it is for confusion. That's why we have this thing called newspeak, where everything is just turned upside down. Men can be women, and women can be men, and all that stuff that makes you confused, right?
Yeah. At one time, gay was just a happy person. Now they've stolen the word, you know, and now if you said, "Oh, I'm having a gay day," people will be outraged. Oh, he's.
I actually saw a stand-up comedian talk about this, talking about lesbian marriages, heterosexual marriages, and gay marriages. You want to guess who has the lowest divorce rate? It's the gay people, because they're just happy, right? Yeah. Jokes aside, the European Union was founded on, I know a lot of people think it's founded on the idea of trade, right? Yeah. That's what we're told. Yeah. But in fact, the European Union was also founded on the idea that the national state was a horrible idea that resulted in war. So the European Union was actually made to abolish the national state. Yep. Right?
Yeah, I completely agree. Many liberals I have met have said, you know, we need things like the UN and the EU to bring about global peace. It's utter nonsense.
There's no such thing.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no such thing. The United Nations is not a completely different discussion, but it's a broader discussion than the European Union. However, the European Union's foundation is to abolish the national state. Yep. And talking to people, I see this in the Make Europe Great Again movement. There is a lot of, I guess you could say, patriots, because it's the broader aspect of the term, not necessarily nationalist, but they believe in the national state and they're patriots. They want to redefine the European Union. Do you think it's possible to redefine the European Union when its foundation was built on abolishing the national state to not have war?
Yeah, I voted for Brexit. I wanted out. I want control of our own sovereignty to decide what we should do. And I strongly believe that now. I do, however, have the sense that the European Union has been good for nationalist parties. It's helped connect them. It's helped because of the proportional representation voting system. It's actually helped finance some of them as well. A lot of money flows in from the EU to political parties based on the percentage of their vote. It's allowed fantastic cooperation, opportunities for people to learn the political game. So in that respect, you know, I have, in the last few years in particular, I've had a greater understanding of that, and I think it's been beneficial for the political development of the nationalist struggle. However, I don't believe in the institution itself. I think it's wrong. You can have a league, a cooperation of European sovereign nations, like a league of independent nations. But as you said, that's not what the EU is about. That wants to, abolish, cultural identity, the nation state. You can't have one rule to cover all. It just doesn't happen. Not with defined ethnic peoples. So I don't think it'll ever succeed. I think it will collapse. I think the writing's on the wall for the European Union as a superstate. Nationalism is growing throughout Europe. The EU is one of the forces that encourages mass immigration and prevents us doing anything about it. So I think its collapse is inevitable.
It's an interesting take because speaking about culture, or ethnicity or groups, because on the one hand you have the European Union wanting the superstate, right? Mm-hmm. And they're telling you that your group identity matters, but it doesn't matter if you're a certain group. It's very confusing. Yep. So if you're an immigrant, it's important and you need to bring with you your culture and your identity, but if you're native European, you shall not have that, right? And then on the same page, we've seen this. What happens when you just draw a line and create a nation, or not even a nation, an area that is under the same control? Look to Nigeria. You have different groups of peoples mm-hmm. at war. You see this in the Middle East, the different clans, how they fight each other. So what makes the Western national quote-unquote leaders, I don't want to call them leaders, but I'll say that leaders, think that they can make it happen, abolishing the national state, abolishing the groups that make out Europe in different areas into a super state in which there will be no war? Like, how did erasing lines take away from?
Again, I think it plays into, there was a discussion earlier today about, conspiracy theories. This is a global agenda, global plot. Have shady men got into a room and decided that this is how they're going to shape the world. It's we don't want to play into the conspiracy theory stuff, but these things are orchestrated. These things are by design. People made a decision that they're going to create this European Union, and it's going to prevent the Mistereggen plan, all the rest of it. These things are there. They're documented. It's not a little bit of effort, and you dig these things out. As I said earlier, even Keir Starmer has said the mass immigration to the UK has been by design.
Well, it is.
Yeah, people have sat there down and said, this is what we're going to do. And I believe a lot of it is to destabilise the states, to erase cultural identity. The great erasure, really, that is spoken about in Europe, and it's not a term that's commonly used in England, but they have had to cut us loose from the things that make us Scottish, English, Norwegian. Because if they cut us off from our identity, they can then manipulate us and shape us into economic components and units. It's almost like the blank slate theory, that your genetics or your culture has no impact on you at all. You're just, by complete accident, you've become Norwegian, and there's no much to it. If they give you as Geir said today, if they give you a colouring book and you colour it in yourself and you experiment, what does it turn into? That's an utter nonsense. When you deal with anybody, you can imprint a language on somebody by taking them into school, but their character, their intelligence, all that, these things are determined at birth and by their genetic ancestry and history. What they're trying to create cannot be done. We are a product of our lineage, and that is important, and it's worth preserving. It's what's created the unique nations and cultures, even within. I live in the British Isles. We've got the Scots, the English, the Welsh, and the Northern Irish, and it breaks down beyond that. That you've got the Gaels in the north, where I'm from. You've got the Doric language and culture in the northeast of Scotland. All over the country, there's different variations based on culture and identity, and for these people to tell us that's like a figment of our imagination, what it is, a social construct, or it's utter nonsense. Everything in life, science, experience, tells you these things are real, and what they're trying to create can't possibly come to pass. It's literally only there because we've allowed them to take control, and we've allowed them this slow march through the institutions to dictate to us what should be happening. And they've created this culture of fear that stops us fighting back. And what events like today are good for is that we can start to again say, we're drawing a line in the sand, and we're going to fight this, and we're going to challenge this every day, and we're going to expose these people. A lot today has been spoken about truth, and it's conveying that in the right manner, in the professional manner, and showing that we are the good guys. I honestly have never felt so confident about the nationalist struggle, because the quality of the people involved, the professionalism, the self-sacrifice. Yeah, it's. I can't help feeling we live in exciting times. They're horrible, dangerous times, but I feel privileged to be about today. The fact that we can take part in this and engage in the fight that we're doing.
So you mentioned the British Isles, and I think that is very interesting, because speaking about having sort of like a super state, well, you have a United Kingdom, right? You have different peoples, and somehow it now works, I guess, because of a new enemy. I know that Scots and the Englishmen fought a lot. Like, there is history here of disagreement, to put it in a polite term. So, but you see it's possible to unite under one kingdom. It might not be as peaceful. has the European Union not understood correctly? Like, if you look to the UK, how it was forced into the same mold, if you like, even though you still have your different, identities and cultures within the respective countries of the United Kingdom. Well, countries, I say countries of the United Kingdom, Scotland, England, Wales, etc. It works, but doesn't it? Could that be a model?
It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I think there are inequalities in the system. There are devolved parliaments in Northern Ireland, in Scotland and Wales. There's none in England, for example. In the Homeland Party, we believe there should be. And we believe that all 4 of these regional assemblies or regional parliaments or home nation parliaments should be similar. They shouldn't be different. I think that would solve a lot of the problems. We have a shared family and heritage in the British Isles. That's without question. There are people in our party who are unionists, who are pro-British Union. There are people in our party who are pro-independence for Wales and for Northern Ireland and for Scotland. But we've taken the approach where we have to fight today to save our homeland off the British Isles, because if there's no Scots, if there's no Welsh, if there's no English, there's no Scotland, there's no Wales, there's no England. So constitutional matters, for me, take second place to preserving the people of these islands. I'm very proud to be a Scotsman. I live in England now, and I have done for 3 years. I'm still a Scot. I'm not magically becoming England by living in Scotland and having an English partner.
Have you not ridden the subway? Because that's like a thing in Sweden. If you ride the subway, according to the Green Party, you're Swedish. So I'm Swedish.
Yeah, and according to a former leader of the Scottish National Party, if you live 5 minutes in Scotland, you're Scottish.
Wow.
It's just utter nonsense.
I've been on holiday for 5 minutes in Scotland. Does that make me a Scot?
You could have qualified under the SNP regime. Yes, 100%. But so for me, I'm also a Gael. I come from the Outer Hebrides, and our culture is Gaelic. And in the Highlands, they tried to outlaw Gaelic culture and Gaelic tradition. My family are of the generation, my parents are the generation where if they spoke Gaelic in the playground, they got punished for it. And so they literally tied to outlaw culture, and that's why I laugh sometimes. People call us, the fascist Homeland Party. I'm not a fascist. In fascist Italy, for a start, it's a foreign ideology, a foreign concept. But they tried to wipe out regional dialects in Italy. The Homeland Party is exactly the opposite of that. We want to encourage this stuff, cultural identity of people. I'm a Gael, I'm passionate. There's no way I'm going to be trying to obliterate Gaelic culture or Welsh or Doric or anything, or the other Cornish culture. I'm very fiercely passionate about defending these differences in cultures. But I do actually believe you can have that and still work together as Great Britain. There should be more power and control put down to the lowest level possible. I'm passionate believer in community politics, and what's right for one area, for example, the Highlands of Scotland, might be completely wrong for London, and vice versa. So you have to implement what's right for the people in the local area. Yeah. So we should devolve power as best as possible. Obviously there's things like defence and immigration that need central control, but where possible we should devolve it down to where it has most impact for the people. So yeah, I don't think the British model is perfect, far from it. I think a system where at the moment where England, for example, is a complete mishmash. They've got some places with town and parish councils, then a district council on top, county council on top of that, and then Parliament. And other areas where it's just a unitary authority and a parliamentary seat. So I think that it would help if there was a more uniform distribution of these things. And like I said, England needs a parliament. If Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland have, the English should have too.
So last question for you, Kenny, because you talked a little bit about who your party members are, that the majority of party members are under 30, if I heard that correctly. And I do see the same tendency here in Norway as well with the Progressive Party, a lot of the voters for them, they're not really. I could say a lot of stuff about them, but let's just. They're in Parliament, sort of already, and they've always been deemed the right wing. They're not right wing at all, but they've
By the
been
sound of
deemed.
they mirror reform quite a lot.
Yeah, so a lot of younger voters turns to them now. Hopefully they will turn outside of Parliament. That's what we can hope for in terms of changing the policies and having real political change. But do you think there's a key to attracting the young people, or is it just a fundamental in your DNA sort of rebellion against the establishment that is causing a lot of the young people to turn to other political parties outside of establishment?
Yeah. No, I don't think it's an accident. It's certainly not an accident for us. We've actually had that goal and target from the start. We looked at other nationalist operations that were going on, couldn't find anything matching what we wanted to do. So we were able to create this brand new party that had clear objectives and goals. And the first thing was that we have to energise the youth. The older guard in nationalism are very stuck and fixed in their ways, and they don't look to the future. They want to turn the clock back. The Homeland Party wants to have recognition of the past and tradition, but times change. The world's changed. We have to move with that, and we need. There's been a void. There hasn't been proper political opposition in the UK for about 15 years. Nationalist opposition. So there's no generation of young people who have learned from the older ones who were involved in the BNP and learned the craft and became that. So we've had to create that from start. So you have to grab the young people straight off, get them confident, get them enthused and excited, and train them up to be the leaders of future. I'm an old man essentially. I'm 53. I don't feel old most days, I'll be honest here. But I walk into rooms sometimes and for party events and workshops, stuff like that. I'm the oldest guy there by a country mile, and it's great. But we need to train up young folk to be the leaders of the future, because it's these people who will shape it. And I truly believe, if I live long enough, I will see it happen in my lifetime, but I will not be the head of the Homeland Party when that happens. I'm here just to facilitate that. I'm here because nobody else wants to do it at the moment. But that's what we want to do. We want a party of 1,000 leaders, more leaders if we can. But you have to work for it. Kids have always been had a rebellious streak, but they don't always focus it in the right way. You do always need guidance. When I first got involved in nationalism, I was excited by the more extreme elements. But I had wise counsel pretty early on in my thing telling me, be smart, don't do these things, get involved with positive stuff. And I became part of that vanguard after, it took a wee while, but I became part of that team in 1997 who started changing the British National Party away from just being a street politics movement into a serious political party, to try to engage in new things and learn from other parties that were doing community politics. And we did that. We completely changed the way the British National Party functioned and started making it electable. And so they were winning seats. And I believe that we're already on that path now. We've got 14 town and parish councillors, which is more than all the other small nationalist parties put together. And we're giving people hope. We're getting young people on who have started their own business, who have already got families, who now believe that they can say, yeah, I'm a nationalist, I'm in the Homeland Party, and there's no stigma attached to it. That they believe they can have a positive, exciting future being part of the Homeland Party, because we're not tolerating the antisocial behaviour and the antics that are commonly associated with being a nationalist. And I think that's important. I've spoken with lots of people this weekend about being good people, about being positive people, quality people, and the Norway Democrats already. I'm banging the drum in the UK about these things. They're doing exactly the same thing here, and that's what's, I think, fantastic. That we're meeting friends in Europe and comrades in Europe who are facing the same obstacles, the same battles, and have the same ambition, and they realise that we've got to do these things to make progress. And guys, there are people already ahead of the game of us. the Freedom Party in Austria, the AfD in Germany, Confederacja in Poland. These people have already learned these lessons and are having success. So us in Norway and in the UK, we're playing catch up, and we'll get success because we've got truth on our side. We're being honest, and I think we just have to make sure we have the right people working with discipline and passion and self-sacrifice. We can't fail.
I think it's an interesting picture because when you have a supranational organization or union or control mechanism imposing certain directives or policies on you, you will get a reaction, right? So the fact that you're seeing the same reaction in Norway, in Scotland, in Germany, it's not random because people don't want it. I think also it makes me excited to hear that you get all these young people. 70% is under 30. I used to be the young person in the room. I'm not anymore either. But it's
great today. So we've seen so many ladies and young folk today here as well. Brilliant.
And we're two ladies here. She's already doing a little flip-flop in here, so I think I'm going to wrap it up. But I want to thank you so much for sitting down, and hopefully we will see each other again.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much,
soon.
Rebecca, and good luck
for
the next few months. And well done on the work you do as well. You've done a big difference in Norway, and I've heard a lot of good things this weekend about yourself as well.
Thank you.